Good evening, citizens of Portsmouth and my colleagues on council. I want to welcome each and every one of you to our last meeting in the most wonderful time of the year. Thank you all for attending. I would now ask that my council members please stand for a moment of silence, and everyone else stand, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, thank you all for being with us. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Mr. Battle.
Here.
Mrs. Lucasberg. Here. Mr. Moody.
Here.
Dr. Whitaker.
Present.
Mr. Woodard.
Here.
Mayor Glover.
Here. Members of council, we have for our consideration the minutes of a called meeting on November 22nd, 2022, and a regular meeting on November 22nd, 2022. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg.
Yes.
Mr. Moody.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Woodard.
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. We have now come to the item on our agenda where we have a presentation for Councilman Christopher L. Woodard and Councilman Paul Battle for their faithful service to City Council. Sir, please you come first. Councilman Woodard, on behalf of the Portsmouth City Council and the citizens of Portsmouth, I want to thank you sincerely for your service as councilman and for your duty to the cause. From the date of 1/4/21 to 12/31/22, thank you, sir, and I wish you all the best in all your future endeavors.
I truly appreciate this. You know, it's been a uphill battle, just being a servant to Portsmouth. You know, growing up in this city, it's a lot of challenges here. Being educated through one of the best high schools, IC Norcom High School. I know that can be debatable. But you know, I'm just proud to be able to serve my community and in any capacity whatsoever. I'm so glad to meet the people that surround me, the appointees, Miss Deborah White, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Miss Deborah White, our city manager, Chapman, our city attorney, Miss LaVonda L. Graham-Williams. Just so elated to know you guys, and I know that the city is in great hands moving forward. I'm proud of the things I've done with this council, some of the programs that we started, you know, fully funding our schools, making sure that our citizens get these direct payments. I mean, when I look at the worldly news, I see that some of the things that we've done here on council is being reflected throughout the United States. So Portsmouth should be proud of being the first at doing a lot of great things right here in Portsmouth, Virginia. I know that we get a bad rep, but guess what? You got to be tough to be on this council, and you got to put in the work as well. You know, once again, I know it's been some times me and my colleagues had, but what I can say is I try to be truthful, I try to be fair with my colleagues, and once again, I think they will express that any time or any conversations you have with them. I appreciate the council members who appointed me, Councilman Moody, Vice Mayor Barnes, Councilman Dr. Whitaker, Councilman Paul Battle. I appreciate you guys believing in me. Once again, you guys didn't tell me that it was a lot of work to be done here in Portsmouth, but I don't think we can debate that I really put my best step forward each and every time. Once again, man, I almost cried on you guys, I almost cried on you. But I just really appreciate the people that I met throughout this whole process. And once again, I know Portsmouth is in good hands. Mr. Shannon Glover, Mayor Shannon Glover, I think our first conversation, I said I was going to put in the work, and you challenged me on that. And one thing about it, I know it could be a rift between our colleagues, but me and you always will sit down and have a conversation if needed. And I just want you guys to know that please don't believe the rhetoric out there. It is some people that was trying to work together on this council. And believe me, we're going to continue to do work, because if you are dedicated to the people, if you're dedicated to the service, you'll do what you have to do with the title or without the title. So once again, I appreciate you guys allowing me to serve. And I just want to put this on the record, because some people don't know my nickname, but I'm going to go ahead and say it, because people know me as that, but I'm Councilman Christopher Fat Boy Woodard. All right.
Councilman Paul Battle. Sir?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Battle, I just wanted to say a couple things to you. You and I both came on this council together. I remember you very vividly. And I've always admired your and respected your work in the community. I remember when my children were in Cavalier Manor Little League and you ran that program, and I saw you all the time and I always wondered who this guy was with the white hair running around, taking care of all these kids. But I've never witnessed so many people like yourself that give to the community like you have. And I want you to know that I appreciate your service. On behalf of my colleagues, we appreciate all that you've done to help make Portsmouth better. And anything that we can do, we're here to help and assist you, and wish you all the best in your future endeavors, sir. And on behalf of the council, I want to let everybody know from 1/1/19 to 12/31/22, Mr. Battle, service to his community. Thank you, sir.
You know I don't play it, right? I don't laugh and joke and play because this is too serious. I heard the cries of those kids. That's the only reason why I'm here. I heard the cries of the poor. Daily, it echoes in my ear. I know how the rich play you and run your government and make you do these things to yourselves. I reach back to grab all of your hand. I'm not here to stifle the rich. I want them to make their money. But the poor has to live too. And it's a travesty about these kids and us not putting our foot down and saying enough. So I'm going to say this. MacArthur said I'll return. I'm going to be like Ike. I'm not going to say a word. But if my kids and if these citizens don't have a wonderful quality of life, I will be back. And to the citizens who don't believe what they see with their eyes, I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to look up 2 words. I want you to look up chicanery, 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 and gaslighting. When you understand those two terms, then I can bring you out of bondage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, would you please read our speaker statement?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice the timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice, excuse me, a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have now come to item public hearing on our agenda, 22-364. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the agenda item we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. Public hearing with respect to the proposed adoption by City Council of a resolution to request the General Assembly to amend the present city charter. The proposed amendment to the charter will revise Charter Section 12.09, recall of elected officers.
Thank you, ma'am. And we do have a registered speaker for this particular item. Our first registered speaker is Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, if you would come forward and state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in Portsmouth in District 5, Woodbine Farms neighborhood. We have 5 legislative representatives and 2 executive representatives sitting on City Council to represent the people's need for liberty and justice for all. With this resolution, no legislative member has his or her name on this resolution request. When any agenda items comes forward to be voted on, a legislative representative needs to patron that agenda item. We, the people, need to be represented up on City Council when all these resolutions and ordinances are being voted on without our knowledge or consent. A recall petition is about applying the Bill of Rights, Section 3 and Section 12 of Article 1. It is not about a legal issue. Just for your knowledge, here is what the 2 sections of the Bill of Rights reads. Section 3, government instituted for a common benefit. That government is or ought to be instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the people, nation, or community, of all the various modes and forms of government that is best, which is capable of producing the greatest degree of happiness and safety, and is most effectually secured against the danger of maladministration. And whenever any government shall be found inadequate or contrary to these purposes, a majority of the community hath an individual, inalienable, and inexcusable right to reform, alter, or abolish it in such a manner as shall be judged most conducive to the public well-being. In Section 12, freedom of speech and of the press, right peaceably to assemble and to petition, that the freedoms of speech and of the press are among the great bulwarks of liberty and can never be restrained except by an autocratic tyrannical governments, that any citizen may freely speak, write, and publish his sentiments on all subjects, being responsible for the abuse of that right, that the General Assembly shall not pass any law condensing the freedom of speech or of the press, nor the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This resolution to amend the charter is coming from the elected to deprive the people of the government's promise that the people will have the freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and to peaceably assemble and to petition our city's government for the redress of grievances through our recall petitions. We, the people, say no. This resolution is a plan to take away the people's right to self-govern by denying us the freedom to petition the city for a redress of grievances.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker, Mr. Robert Meredith. Sir, if you would come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Robert Meredith. I reside at 4305 Duke Drive in Portsmouth, Virginia. And I would like to wish a good evening to Mayor Glover and the City Council and my fellow Portsmouth citizens. This is my first time in front of Council, and I'm here to voice opposition to the resolution calling for the amending of Section 12.09 regarding recall of elected officers. I'll begin with a tiny bit of background. All council members serve at the pleasure of the citizens of Portsmouth. In the event our elected officials demonstrate gross negligence, dereliction of duty, and/or criminal behavior, the citizens to whom these officials report have a legitimate process for removing such elected officials from office via what is called a recall petition. For decades, Section 12.09 regarding the recall of elected officers has served the citizens of Portsmouth well. Seeking to amend the section, particularly now, looks less like responsible governance and more like a brazen ploy to build a higher wall around our elected officials, making it ever more difficult to confront and challenge bad behavior. Make no mistake, to remove an elected official from office is no easy task, and this is as it should be. It's a difficult undertaking with high hurdle. To be successful, a recall petition requires the valid signatures of 30% of all Portsmouth voters who voted in the most recent gubernatorial election. So, looking at our most recent gubernatorial election, this means it takes roughly 10,000 valid signatures to recall a sitting official. No one embarks on a recall effort lightly. It's an expensive, it's a laborious, and it's a very difficult task. What does the amendment call for? Well, it would make the recall process even more tedious and more cumbersome by injecting requirements and additional expenses. Worse yet, the resolution provides that the City Council may consider additional changes, including, quote, increasing the number of electors required to sign the petition, end quote. So, at Council's discretion, they could say the number of signatories required is no longer 30%. It's, say, 45%. It's 60%. It's 80%. It makes zero sense giving carte blanche oversight authority to those people being overseen. Why is this resolution being put forward in the first place? Unfortunately, those putting forward the amendment have been less than forthcoming on the logic or the motive. Has the recall tool been abused in Portsmouth? Have recalls been handled or bandied about frivolously? Hardly. The last time Portsmouth undertook a recall was for the removal of Mayor Hawley 13 years ago, in 2010. For the council to put forth this resolution is both indefensible and is a glaring conflict of interest. If there is a compelling argument for the amendment, the people of Portsmouth have yet to hear it. This has all the markings of a desperation move spearheaded by certain elected officials sensing their own vulnerability. The way to protect your job isn't by attempting to move the goalposts or by attempting to change the rules when things become personally uncomfortable. The way to protect your job and cement your future as an effective public servant is to faithfully serve the people, all of the people of this fine city. I urge you to vote against advancing the resolution to request amending Section 12.09 regarding the recall of elected officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. You are not required to have signed up to come forward and speak on this matter. If you wish to come forward, you must state your name, address, and you will have 5 minutes. Sir, are you coming forward? So we'll let, ma'am, come forward, please, ma'am. Then you, sir. Then you, sir.
Being ma'am just ages me terribly. Thank you so much. My name is Terry Danaher, and I live at 413 Dinwiddie Street. And it's been a while since I've been up here. And I would like to say to Mr. Woodard and Mr. Battle, although I did not approve of all that you did, I do appreciate the work that you put into the things that I agreed with. So thank you for your service. Robert very clearly stated just about anything I would have said anyway, so he saved me a lot of words and a lot of time, which I'll spare you. I'm here as a member of ConcernedCitizensOfPortsmouth.org, and we have a website, ConcernedCitizensOfPortsmouth.org, and we didn't take the task of recall lightly. And looking at the new amendment that, well, it's not totally new, but this amendment lets us know pretty much that you really don't want to hear what we have to say. And that's been part of the problem for months. When some of the behaviors that we objected to, the sudden changes in the agenda, the sudden firings and the hirings and all that's been going on, when we objected, we were basically told, what you have to say doesn't matter. So then we had to take matters into our own hands. And we didn't want to wait for an election. There was an election, and that kind of proved our point to a degree. But we still have work to do, because we're still not being listened to. So I strongly suggest that the recall, it's already an incredibly burdensome process. Otherwise, there would be one every year, I think, because people get frustrated. But this isn't just a little frustration. This is a lot of frustration by a lot of people. And people are going to take this to our legislators. We're not going to stop here. We're going to go to the legislators in Richmond, because there's no need to change this. It's a pretty burdensome, as I just said, process, and as Robert explained. You don't need to make it more difficult. You need to listen. You just need to listen. So please, listen up. And in the meantime, anybody who is interested in following up on this work, ConcernedCitizensOfPortsmouth.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, if you would please come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
William Britt, 5109 Moonlit Avenue, Portsmouth, Virginia, Sterling Point. And the city attorney could correct me on this if I'm wrong. I went after the Sheriff's Department of Gates County for corruption. There's a thing, a law called failure to discharge duty, and that's for any elected official with the police department on that could be held accountable for failure to doing their duties. And it is a first-class misdemeanor. So that's another route that could go if certain city council members don't want to comply and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they could be sought after and charged with that. And the city attorney, I'm pretty sure, could correct me or not correct me, but there is a law in the books called that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, if you would come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and other neighbors. Mark Gaduldi-Gutrovsky, P.O. Box 50141, Portsmouth. So I have expressed myself on this particular topic a year and some ago when you first proposed it, and at other times here in person and in written form. Mr. Meredith really gave an incredible speech, and I'm so glad there were two people between him and me so that I didn't at least have to immediately follow that. But he said most of what needs to be said in regard to this issue. However, I'm here. And first of all, I want to say that for you all to vote on this matter, I deem it a conflict of interest. In a state that took conflict of interest seriously, there would be another way to do this. Actually, you have another way to do this. Instead of having a public hearing, you would have a referendum. And then all the people in this city who are stakeholders would have an opportunity to be heard on whether they think your proposal has merit. But you've chosen in each instance to amend the charter, which is our foundational civic document, as the Constitution is the foundational civic document for the country as a whole. You've chosen to have a public hearing 12 days before the biggest holiday in the United States in the course of the year. And so we don't have a huge turnout tonight. And that seems to be the way you schedule these things as well. The original notice was buried in the back pages of the Virginian Pilot, which fewer and fewer people read. So what with people's minds being focused on the holiday season and their lives generally, there is not a queue as there would be if you were raising the tax rate during budget time. Sad, because this is as significant as that. So as previously stated, you are actually sandbagging your positions by adding new language that makes it nearly impossible to remove a sitting elected official. Effectively, that's where it goes. That's wrong. The recall is a safety valve. It enables people who put you in your seats in the first place to reconsider their original decision before the end of your appointed term for activities on your part that violate the public trust. And the current recall definitely revolves around those kinds of issues. The firing of a capable, caring, and competent city manager with no prior notice to the public, with no explanation to the public that you serve, that's egregious. And although I have, in fact, supported one or more of the council members who are the subject of the recall or were the subject of the unelection campaign, previously, this crosses the line for me. you have not done the people's business in accordance with the will of this person and at least to date 5,000 others. So for you to try to sandbag your position by adding language that makes it impossible to recall you is also a further reason for pushing forward. I urge you to oppose this change. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Once again, this is a public hearing. You do not, and you are not required to have signed up to come speak on this matter. If there's anyone who wishes to speak on this matter, please come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Mayor, Councilwoman, Councilmen, good evening. My name is Thomas Petty, 5204 Peak Lane, Portsmouth. To be honest, I didn't come up here to speak on this event, but I didn't get a copy of what was going on beforehand. But since I arrived, I feel I need to at least make the statement, changing the rules of the game at this point is obviously a Hail Mary attempt. We've had these rules for years and years, and they work. To have the council try to change things to make it harder for you to listen to the city residents is absurd in my opinion. The only thing I'd like to say is if there's a vote on this matter, I would at least request to postpone the vote until the new year with the new council. I think it's totally wrong and distasteful to allow councilmen that will not be around in the next 30 days or 45 days and have no recourse or to explain to the city members, residents, how this came about. Again, I think it's just totally wrong to change the rules at this point in the game when it seemed to have hold well historically. Like a gentleman said, what, 13 years ago, we had one recall. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. If you wish to come speak on this matter, please come forward and you will have 5 minutes. State your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Mike Fink. I live in Charleston, and I have several questions. One question would be, who will this recall benefit and not benefit that's on this council now? There's obviously a reason why it slid in here the last minute. I think there wasn't no publicity about it. A lot of people don't take the newspaper. A lot of people don't come down here to the post office and read what's on the walls if you put something down there. I think this thing was slid in behind us. And I'd like to know who would benefit tonight for not having a recall. Who's scared of a recall? That's my question.
Sir, this is a public hearing. You can continue with your comments if you would like, or...
But that's pretty much what I've got to say. I just feel like that I've lived here for 67 years. One recall, I was here when Mayor Holly was here. I don't know if you knew the circumstances, but he also got voted back in. So I just don't know which one of you, or two of you, or three of you, or four of you would like to have a recall. It doesn't make sense. It really don't make sense at all to to change things. Our charter is just fine. We need help with the city. We need help with the roads. We need help with the children. We just need so much help. We don't need all this BS about trying to have a recall. I mean, nobody that I know personally has done anything wrong that's on this city council. You hear different things, but you hear things in life. But I honestly believe you're wasting your time and you're blowing smoke when there's no fire. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. If you wish to come speak on this matter, please come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Hello, fellow council members. My name is Merle Rutledge, and as you already know, I continue to repeat myself. I don't get out my address because of my safety. Now, regardless of the situation, I don't understand why this recall issue even came up after somebody challenged a bunch of people to a debate. Now, I accepted the challenge. Now, somebody was speaking on behalf of the city, which they shouldn't have. And now I see y'all trying to change the rules. See, people deserve better than this, all the way across the board. What are we here for? We're here to serve the public. Whether you're elected or not, everybody has a duty to be here for the best interest of Portsmouth, the best interest of your friends and neighbors and your community. And when that community says it's time for someone to go, you have to ask yourself questions. How did we get to this point? How did we get to this point of no longer having trust in certain officials? I think we don't challenge ourselves enough. We speak out of turn, and now we see exactly what's going on here. People are running from their responsibilities, their obligations, and their duty, and trying to use the law to do it. I'm just a private citizen. I can't write the rules on when or how I get fired from my employer. I can't write the rules about when a law is passed or not. I can speak on it. And that's my duty right now, to speak on it, because it's clearly wrong. A recall is meant for us to correct the wrong from the past. And we have looked over time, we have seen a lot has been wrong with the past. If it was my call, everybody get recalled. I'd just like to speak the truth. We've been represented in this state badly. We've seen the childishness, we've seen the anger and the frustration, the tears, the names read of how many killed. And it seems like everybody who's getting recalled or not recalled, y'all just don't get it. Y'all don't get it. People are hungry. People are crying. People are dying. If you're worried about a recall is more important than all of that, you deserve to be recalled and do exactly what you promised and guaranteed from the person who challenged everybody outside of Portsmouth, inside of Portsmouth, whatever. It's time for you to campaign to recall yourself. If you're not ready for that debate or that challenge, I step up to you by stepping up to all of y'all. Do what's right for Portsmouth. Everybody's complaining. We got enough of complaints. Let's solve the problems together. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for doing a wonderful job. Because after a while, don't think I don't like you because I have nothing but respect for you. I've never been in your shoes. But I know you lead. And I can promise you and I can guarantee you this. You will always have me on board to help, not just to criticize. And I hope everybody learns from that. Be there to help. Just because you're not in office, make sure you remember the oath that you took. It is the better Portsmouth, better Virginia, better yourselves each and every single day, because we already seen the worst. Thank you for your time, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. If you would like to come and speak on this matter, please come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes. Seeing none, then this public hearing is now closed. Do we have any additional discussion between my colleagues on council on this particular matter? Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would like to just make sure that the correct information is presented to the public. First of all, the recall amendment to the city charter, that issue was raised before this present issue. It was raised during last year during our legislative conference. We presented it as part of our legislative package. We did it because we needed to align the city's recall language with the state's recall language. The language that is presently in the city charter does not align with the state's language. It had nothing to do with trying to prevent a recall. I could care less if a recall is committed against me. That's not the issue. When I raised it, there was no recall effort. I raised it back then because the city charter was out of line. Also, we raised it again this year during our legislative conference with our senator and our representative present and requested that it be presented again. Some of you will remember that this amendment was presented to the General Assembly last year. It passed from the Senate with the vote of the Democrats. It passed out of the House of Representatives with the vote of the Democrats. All of the Democratic elected officials across the state supported this amendment. It was Tim Anderson, who has interfered in several issues in this city, who took a privilege to make a technical move that caused the amendment to go back to committee and fail. It had nothing to do with the support of citizens or the non-support. It was purely a political move, but all of the Democrats across the state supported the amendment to the charter. Also, I would like to correct that some of you are referring to the fact that there has not been a recall since Dr. Holly. That is incorrect, and I want to make sure that the history reflects the truth. In 2021, Senator Louise Lucas was recalled. There was an attempt to recall Senator Louise Lucas. In 2016, there was an attempt to recall Mayor Kenneth Wright. In 2010 is when Dr. Holly was recalled. In 1987, Dr. Holly was recalled. I find it interesting that the concerned citizens are never concerned when we have white elected officials who have committed some atrocities. You weren't concerned when Mayor Rowe was double dipping. You weren't concerned when a council member was involved with contracting with the city. You weren't concerned when a state representative was involved in a settled claim scheme. You weren't concerned then. The only time recalls have been used against African-American elected officials in this city. That is the truth, and the record will reveal that. And so, therefore, it has nothing to do with trying to protect this position. It has all to do with trying to do the right thing and align our amendment, our charter with the state language, and also to stop using these recalls in a racist way that has only been used against African American elected officials, and I know I'm right about that.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Mr. Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Now, please don't get delusional and say, oh, Mr. Battle is prejudiced. But let me say this to you. Do you think about recalling when you get no satisfaction about the kids being killed? Do you say recall when they did the Renaissance Hotel and it started out at 28 million and ended up at 48 million? Did you come up here deep for a recall when I say Norcom was built, started out at $32,000, ended up at, million, ended up with 53 million. Did you want to recall when they built a regional jail and the council promised that we would pay for 250 beds? We could have built 2 jails. Where were you then? Where were you when your infrastructure was going down and nobody paying attention to it? Where were you when your taxes were going up? Oh, you had nothing to say,
Please,
right?
excuse me, Mr. Battle. Now, no, sir, I
could
just
go
wanted to
on
pause
and
for a
on.
minute. But everyone, we have to refrain from the outburst. Mr. Battle has the floor. If you continue to have outbursts, I will have you removed from the chamber.
The truth hurt its tongue. Can't handle it. And don't say I'm racist. My grandfather was whiter than any of you. Now, I could go on and on, trust me. Where were you when we were renting buildings for folk at 5 times the cost? Oh, you don't want to recall anybody then. You put this city in State of the Union because you want to follow chicanery and gaslighting. When you go home, please, let me say it again, chicanery and gaslighting. If you learn those 2 definitions, you will have a master's degree.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Any other comments from my colleagues? Madam Clerk? Would you call the roll, please? Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. We are in need of a motion and a second. I'm sorry.
There's no vote. That's the public hearing. It's a
Oh, I didn't close the public hearing? So, oh, yeah, we got to come into, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks. Charge it to my head. So let's move forward on the next public hearing item. Item 22-365, and Madam Clerk, would you please read the agenda item and ordinance we're considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. Z2205, Town Point Plaza, ordinance granting the request of John Sandow, P.E., on behalf of The Flats at Twin Pines LLC to rezone approximately 3.73 acres at 3993 Twin Pines Road from conditional multifamily urban residential to multifamily urban residential in order to remove the existing proffers and develop an 82-unit multifamily dwelling development. The applicant is concurrently requesting a use permit for a multifamily dwelling. The future land use map of the Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for multifamily residential. The property is owned by The Flats at Twin Pines LLC. Planning Commission recommended approval, and the ordinance that council will be adopting is zoning amendment ordinance Z2205.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is the applicant present today? Is the applicant with us?
Yes, sir.
Sir, would you please come forward? State your name and address, and you will have 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is John Sandow. I'm of John Sandow Engineering. My address is 4104 Clintwood Lane, Virginia Beach, Virginia. And also with me, when will you come on? Also the architect. You want to introduce yourself?
Good evening,
Good evening, sir.
Mayor Glover and City Council. My name is Wendell Green. I'm the president of WTG Design Architects in Chesapeake, Virginia. Thank you. Stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, sir. You could certainly stand by.
And we're here representing Chris Suber of Twin Pines, or Flats at Twin Pines, to talk about this development. It's at 3993 Twin Pines Road. This is a proposed community to build one structure to provide apartments. It's 82 units, apartments that are an age-limited community, so only 55 and older are permitted to rent units from this building. We do have the required parking and access and stormwater detention. Sorry, we're jumping around a little bit here. Provide on the site plan with one structure kind of central with some kind of green and community areas for the tenants in the building. And the stormwater facility is between the building and the residents in the back, and we're adjacent to a sort of strip mall retail center to the south in this view. There's a residential community to the north, and also a multifamily in the rear behind the stormwater detention pond. There are currently no traffic light adjustments that are proposed as part of this development. The entrances are lined up, one with the major roadway across the Twin Pines Road, and the other one is a right-in, right-out only. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wendell to talk about the building.
Okay. Thank you. What you see before you is a 4-story structure that will have 82 units. We're proposing that. Obviously, when we deal with code requirements, it may change a little, but as it stands right now, that's what we're going with. We're excited about this project because it is definitely giving respect to our older citizens. Notice how I said that, because in here, each unit will have a small balcony. We will have within the structure on the first floor an assembly area. We will have an exercise room. We will even have a computer lab for seniors to learn how to deal with websites and et cetera. And I have to be candid with you. I have to count on my daughter to get me through some of the things. So I know for a fact we're working with another development in Norfolk. It's an existing structure that we've rehabbed. And one of the things that is really, really interesting to them is that computer lab. That is so important to them. Well, the exterior of the building, we're looking at a combination of low-maintenance material like hardy board and brick veneer, nice window appointments with trim around them, mechanical equipment and everything will be addressed within the roof system. I think that the key to this is for the community to realize they really need this. They need it because there are a lot of older people that are tired of cutting grass, but they want to live in a place that they can really still interact and still do things like artwork, puzzles. You'd be surprised how many people that are 60, 65 are still really sharp. Now, as a matter of fact, I would say probably half of the people that will be in this structure will still be working. It's just that they want to have an opportunity of being in a place where it's not only a place to sleep and eat, but a place of being. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're hoping that this is something that our city of Portsmouth will do and will be an icon for other people. So if you have any questions, I'm here to entertain whatever you may ask me. Thank you.
Did anyone have any questions? Any of my colleagues? I did have one. Councilman Woodard, sir, did you have a question?
Yes, sir.
You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Great presentation. I just want to know, what is the dynamics of your water runoff? I see that you guys have, an empty grass field back there, but, being that this is in Churchland, we don't want to create any freestanding water for visitors, I'll say, in Churchland. So I'm just asking, what's the dynamics of how you guys putting that together?
So the runoff will be collected in great inlets throughout the parking area and piped back to the stormwater detention facility that you see, that kind of amoeba thing looking in the back to the right there within the site, just adjacent to the parking lot. And then slowly drawn down by gravity through an outlet control structure and piped back into the destination. It's kind of midway along the property line on the north side there. So that's where the drainage is currently routed. So we're trying to put it back in the same place where it went before, but we use the stormwater detention facility to route it so that we don't see a peak flow increase like is required by state standards.
So the grassy area in the back, will that be collecting any water? Is do you guys have to upgrade that area, put more dirt there? I mean, because it can get a little marshy,
Sure.
in different parcels in church.
That's a great question, and it's kind of hard to make out in this image, but one of the irregular lines that kind of frames the back of the stormwater pond is the limits of a protected wetland area, and we're not impacting that. We're leaving that alone, and I know what you're talking about. There are areas back there that are marshy, but we're actually building the pond outside of that area.
Okay.
They will be reshaped so that, like you said, we can build some embankments to hold back the water that's coming from the parking lot, and the grade probably around the building will need to be elevated some so that the water can run from there to the pond and be stored, staged up without flooding any of the on-site or adjacent areas, and then slowly discharged.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also one more question. You're dealing with our senior citizens. What safety measures are you guys will be putting around the facility to make sure that, the residents are safe?
Right. Just to start with, I know that was one of the conditions that was added as a result of the Planning Commission meeting was that we would add security cameras around the facility to sort of prevent loitering or people being in places they're really not supposed to be, and maybe at hours they're not supposed to be there. Aside from that, Wendell, there's some building systems.
What we're planning on doing is getting advice from security consultants. I'll give you a good example. To be able to get into the facility, you should have, and I don't know the right term, what do they call it, a fog? Okay, so when you come to the front, you'll be able to do that, and then it's being monitored anyway. And on the first floor, we will have 24/7 security. There's a pivot area that security person and monitor screens will be set up. And to do that, we're going to have a professional security company as a consultant to make sure we have security correctly.
I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
And it's a great selling point for your
Absolutely.
project. So I do appreciate you answering my questions.
Okay.
Councilwoman Lucas Burke, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. Love the project here for our seniors. I guess it might be embedded in the packet there, but what is the parking requirements that is going to be outlined there? And is there any opportunity for seniors to have, I know you mentioned the activity room, but any exterior activity for them?
That is the last question that I expected anyone to ask me, is how much parking. Obviously, when we get into plan review, we do get deep into that, and we did for this because we went through a pre-submittal meeting with the plan reviewers for this project, and I may be able to read it on this mouse type. It looks like we have number. I can't read it on my plan. I think it's around 120. The 123 spaces.
Okay, so like 2 per unit and 1.5 per unit, right?
Right.
Okay.
And to that point, one of the Planning Commission comments was we want to see a few more ramps because normally we don't need too many accessibility ramps onto the sidewalk level, but given that this is a 55 and older community, that's going to be just about everybody in the
Yes.
complex that may appreciate a little easier access to the sidewalk. So that's already in one of the conditions attached to this.
Right, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your investment in Portsmouth. 55 and older housing is desperately needed. I know we've lost some citizens to surrounding cities because they have that, and we've been lacking in that area. But I have a couple of questions. First of all, I want to I know the handicap parking, that was increased from 5 to 10. Still think that may be on the low side, given, the 83 units there. But, and I think your facility will be very successful. But in case that designation is removed, that 55 and older designation is removed, I know one of the conditions says that if it is removed, an amendment to the use permit shall be required. So my question is to staff, Mr. Baldwin, if you could walk me through that, what would trigger that?
Okay, certainly, and good evening.
And my questioning, let me make it clear, my questioning is that I don't want it to become a low rent facility. So I want to keep it first class and 55 and older. But if you can walk us through that, that would be great.
Certainly. So in order to do an age-restricted project such as 55 and over, you have to follow HUD requirements. That's the first thing you have to do, because you're in essence, not allowing people below 55 to live there. As part of that, they will design in accordance with that HUD requirement. We also make it a condition of the use permit, and they will not be able to move away from the 55 and over without coming to City Council and requesting that the condition be removed. So that will ultimately would require a future City Council action to remove that requirement. They cannot do it unilaterally.
Great, great. That's very good. And also, your neighbors in the area. Have you had any feedback from the Civic League, from Long Point Civic League and other residents?
We've talked to or left messages with all the surrounding communities. The feedback that we got was that they preferred this. If we can go back a slide or two to the old plan that was approved, this one, we did receive feedback that said that they were pleased that we were not going with a multiple building complex with fewer buildings and small units. They liked the, I don't know if I can say all the reasons that they did prefer the other, but they did say they preferred that and they did not want this. And the other feedback that we received was that they did not want to see another traffic light to further slow down the level of service on Twin Pines Road. But those are the big comments that I recall hearing from any communication with the community.
Great. Yeah. And also, since you border the shopping center there, a lot of transient traffic, what will that buffer be between your facility and the shopping center?
You're talking about visually or?
Well, visually and from the noise and
right.
That perspective as well.
So can we go? Yes, thank you. So with where the building's located, for the tenants in the building, there's quite a bit of buffering just in that there's a 60-foot wide parking lot, sidewalk, and so we do have some buffering from the adjacent area. We do have, but there will be trees in the landscape islands that you see that kind of break up the monotony of the parking spaces.
Right.
But along the property line, there are some areas where we have a 10-foot landscape strip where it's required, and others where I don't believe we're required to have it. That's where it's kind of parking up against parking. Don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's what's currently proposed right now.
Okay.
Yeah. We want to do
If I
fencing.
may add, that's one of the components that we really want our security consultant to give us. It's for a fact, when people that are trying to do something wrong, they don't want to do it in the light. They want to, as an architect, what we try to do is, when it comes to vegetation, trees, shrubs, and et cetera, make it so that it will not be easy to enter someone's home. So with that being said, that consultant will help us in regards to accent lighting, where we should have security lights, security cameras, and the person on the inside will be able to monitor not only the inside, but the exterior also. So that's something that we will work out. We will definitely want this place to be. With candor, we're hoping it's going to be a good boilerplate for one or two more, because we know there are people that are over 55 that are waiting for this kind of complex. They're waiting for it. So the city of Portsmouth, get ready. We know you're excited about the gaming development, but with that coming, we want to be able to have some seniors that will have a little more money. They don't have kids to take care of.
Thank you again
you.
for your investment. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions for these gentlemen? Seeing none, then, thank you, sir. I think we do have a speaker for this item. Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, if you would come forward.
I'm Donna Sy, and I live in Woodbine Farms neighborhood. Z22-05 called Town Point Plaza to rezone 3.73 acres of land at 3993 Twin Pines Road to remove the existing proffers and develop an 82-unit family facility. A proffer or proffered condition is a voluntary commitment from a landowner or developer to reduce or eliminate the impact of new development on neighboring properties and the city. The proffers outline September the 28th, 2005, that the use of the property would be limited to a condominium development containing not more than 6 buildings with 6 units per building for a total of 36 units. The landscaping strip would be at least 10 feet in width and containing at least 10 street trees and 30 shrubs. This ordinance was adopted on January the 10th, 2006. This ordinance has already been passed, so there is no way to remove these proffers. These proffers were created for the zoning ordinance. We don't need more apartments in Churchland. We need more agricultural land.
Thank you, ma'am. This is a public hearing. If anyone wishes to come speak on this matter, you can come forward. You will have 5 minutes. State your name and address.
Hello, my name is Merle Rutledge. I could keep repeating the same statement, but I'm not. Only reason why I'm up here because somebody said something about low rent people. I find that very offensive. I know a grandmother who has never committed a crime, that doesn't make a lot of money, takes care of her family, does whatever it takes. And she may want a piece of the sidewalk one day, but she doesn't look for it or care for it. All she cares about the family bond being strong the next time there's a Thanksgiving, the next time there's a Christmas. Just because people don't make as much money doesn't make them a criminal, doesn't make them somebody who should not be treated with the same respect as anybody. I wonder what kind of impact fee this company has. I'm all for capitalism. I'm all for good business. But what are they going to bring back to the community? That's the biggest question I think everybody in the room wants to know. They talk about safety, they talk about more revenue, about the casinos and everything else, but the danger comes with it also as well. But the fact is that woman who doesn't make that much money, that same woman who cooked for people who wasn't even family members, who just so happened to be hungry and needing a plate, she should have every right to be able to live in this facility, not because she doesn't make enough, because she represents the best in Portsmouth and doesn't require money over people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. If you wish to speak on this matter, if you would please come forward, you will have 5 minutes. Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Members of council, is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now come to item B, UP 22-15. And Madam Clerk, please read the agenda item and resolution we are considering pertaining to this item.
Yes, sir. UP 2215, Town Point Plaza, resolution granting the request of John Sandow on behalf of the Flats at Twin Pines LLC for a use permit for a 4-story, 82-unit senior living multifamily dwelling on the approximately 3.73 acre property at 3993 Twin Pines Road with a proposed density of 22 dwelling units per acre. The property is currently zoned conditional multifamily urban residential. The applicant is concurrently requesting a rezoning of the property to remove the existing proffers. The future land use map of the Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property for multifamily residential. The property is owned by the Flats at Twin Pines LLC. The Planning Commission recommended approval with conditions, and the actual resolution reads, a resolution granting a use permit to the Flats at Twin Pines LLC to construct and operate a 4-story senior living multifamily dwelling having not more than 82 residential units located at 3993 Twin Pines Road.
Thank you, ma'am. And I believe the applicant is still present with us?
Correct.
Mr. Mayor.
Sir, you have the floor.
In the interest of time, I think they gave us a very thorough presentation initially, and I don't see any additional information they're going to add. I think it's an excellent project. I think council does too. So can we move to the speaker?
Thank you, sir, for that recommendation. And if there is no objection, then we will move forward. But this is still a public hearing, so we do have a registered speaker for this public hearing. And that registered speaker is Ms. Donna Sy.
Okay, Donna Sy still lives in Woodbine Farms. All right, UP-22-15 called Town Point Plaza for a use permit for a 4-story, 82-unit senior living multifamily facility on 3.73 acres of land with consideration of 22 family units per acres. Let's compare this use permit of 22 units per acre or 22 people per acre versus the requested use permit of an urban residential being planned at the former Kroger site of 18 units per acre or 19 people per acre. Why is the city approving to take away all the land in Churchland to put people in an urbanized complex where there are already a number of family complexes in the vicinity, such as 3744 Town Point Road, Huntington Place, 3802 Town Point Landing Apartments, 3601 Gateway Drive, West Winds Apartment, and the 232 apartments being built at 5601 High Street West. What about the needs of the people, such as entertainment, shopping needs, as well as performance criteria for public services such as sewer and road capacity? What about all the sewer and water issues going on in the city at this time, especially Churchland? What about the increase in traffic on High Street West? There are 2 water tanks that need repair. There are many pump trucks clearing out the sewer pipes that are broken. Churchland was an agricultural district when it was annexed to Portsmouth. What has happened to our agricultural district? Is there going to be a pool, an athletic area, and a pavilion for cookouts, and a walking trail and a garden spot to grow vegetables and fruits? This area needs to be a comprehensive community to build relationships. This deal with the developer is all about making money of the people without giving them any return on their investments of paying rent.
Thank you, ma'am. Once again, this is a public hearing. If you didn't sign up to speak, you can still come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes. Seeing none, this public hearing is now closed. Members of City Council, do you have any additional questions or comments on this matter? Seeing none, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now moved to item CZ-22-06. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the agenda item we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. Turnpike Road, ordinance granting the request of Bobby Wilson of LBC Transportation LLC to rezone approximately 1.13 combined acres at 2325, 2332, 2410, 2414, 2416, and 2400 Turnpike Road, as well as 2410 and 2434 Spruce Street, from light industrial to industrial, to allow for a major subdivision to combine the properties with surrounding properties through a minor subdivision. The applicant is concurrently requesting a use permit for a shipping container chassis storage yard. The future land use map of the Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designate these properties as part of a mixed-use corridor. The properties are owned by LBC Transportation, LLC, and the Economic Development Authority. Planning Commission recommends approval, and the actual ordinance reads zoning amendment ordinance Z 2206.
Thank you, ma'am. Is the applicant present? Please come forward, sir. State your name and address, and you will have 10 minutes.
Good evening, City Council. Good evening, City Council. My name is Bobby Wilson, owner of LBC Transportation. I'm requesting approval of a rezoning of 8 parcels within the 2400 block of Turnpike Road and Spruce Street from light industrial to industrial zoning district, so that they have the same zoning destination. And as remaining 7 parcels, I plan to combine these parcels to one development through a minor subdivision. I am also requesting approval of a use permit for these 15 parcels totaling 2.64 combined acres for my proposed development, which is shipping container chassis storage yard. The use will involve a drop-off and pickup of trailer chassis as well as truck parking. The containers will not be stacked on site, and no repairs of the trucks or chassis will take place on site. I plan to grade the site yard with crushed asphalt and upgrade the existing fence surrounding the property to remove the barbed wires. No building will be built on the property because I plan to utilize another property in Portsmouth for my business office. No on-site employees are needed due to the drop-off pickup nature of the use. I plan to install cameras on the site for security purposes. I am in agreement with all the recommended conditions included, including the condition prohibiting stacking of containers proposed by the Planning Commission. I have been working on this development for a long time, and I respectfully request that you approve both the rezoning and the use permit. Also, there's multiple commercial properties that's on all sides of this particular property, which across Turnpike you have Quarles, another trucking company. To the left of the tracks, you have a trucking company. In the rear of the property, you have a Vulcan material yard, a large Vulcan material yard, and then to the right, there's also another trucking co. So this particular site is in the center of trucking companies, or a trucking area. So that's all I have for today. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Wilson, thank you, sir. Do we have any questions from my colleagues on council? Councilman Woodard, sir?
Thank you. First of all, I'll commend you for piecing all those properties together.
A lot of work.
Yeah, I knew it was a lot of work, man. You had to go through some channels.
Thank
But,
you.
like I say, appreciate you doing that and bringing your business to Portsmouth. That's number one. Also, just want to know how many containers may be stored on this particular property at one time. I know you said they'd be coming in and out, but how many will possibly be sitting there?
Let's say, give you an example. If it's full, I'm projecting maybe 60 containers. If it's
You said
if
60
it's full,
or 6?
60.
60, okay.
If it's full. So it just all depends. Yeah, I can't really say at one time.
Right.
But if it's full at one time, at 60. But drivers will be coming in and out throughout the day. Yeah, that's my best I
all
have.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Good luck, son, and I hope you reach your dream.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I did hear you say that you won't be stacking the containers?
No, sir.
Okay. Great. Good luck to you, by
Thank
the
you,
way.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wilson. The stacking issue, was that something that planning required, or you're just putting forth?
Planning required, but
So that's a
fine.
condition that you can't stack?
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank
And once again, this is a public hearing. You do not, you may be seated, sir. Thank you. But you do not have to have signed up to come and speak on this item. If you wish to speak, you can come forward and you will have 5 minutes. Are you coming to speak, sir? Okay.
How you doing?
If you would please move to the microphone, sir, and move the microphone closer to your mouth so we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank
right.
you. State your name and address, please.
My name is Charlie Jones. I live on 912 Deuce Street. And this is my first council meeting that I came to. And I've been looking at everything. And it's some nice stuff going on. And I don't know if people realize it or not, but with the global warming and everything that's going on, and it's going to be a lot of people moving into this area because it's not a lot of climate disorder going on in this area. So a lot of people from other states going to be coming here, and I think this is a good move that they're doing all this additional work to help build up this area. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
This is a public hearing, and if you wish to come forward to speak on this matter, please do so. State your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes. Seeing none, then this public hearing is now closed. Members of council, is there any additional discussion? We're in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. And Madam Clerk, I do have a question. Item D is similar, very similar to item C.
Correct.
That being the case, is it proper for us to move forward
You may, if that's council's wish.
if
Yes.
council chooses to do that?
Yes.
We do not have any registered speakers, but since it is a public hearing, we still have to ask for anyone that is in the audience who wish to come forward and speak on this matter. You can do so, and you will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on this matter? Seeing none, this item is closed. Do we have any additional discussion? Seeing none?
Move for approval?
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now come to the agenda item of City Manager's Report, item 22-366. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting $35,837 of Community Development Block Grant Program income and $20,730 of Home Investment Partnership Program income and appropriated said amounts in the FY 2023 Community Planning and Development Program Fund.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption?
Second.
We do have one registered speaker, and that is Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, if you would come forward, you state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. So this ordinance is to accept $35,837 from the Community Block Grant Program and $20,730 from the Home Investment Partnership to put into the year 2022-2023 Community Planning and Development Program Fund. For the year 2023, dates include July the 1st, 2022 until June 30th, 2023. In the budget book, Chapter 12 describes the services provided of the Community and Economic Development. The divisions are permits and inspection, planning, and economic development. The services provided includes provisions of support for programs and activities related to the physical development and use of land in the city. Permits and inspection services provided enhanced citizen engagement through various programs to include attending monthly Civic League meetings, 311 customer service requests, and social media that features our how-to videos. Economic development services provide staffs for the EDA and PPIC and serves as the administrator for the city's 2 state-designated enterprise zones. Planning service mission is to engage residents to envision and plan a highly desirable and livable city and to implement that vision through the wise use of land, resources, and related regulatory requirements with the ultimate goal of ensuring a high quality of life. Primary responsibilities are comprehensive planning, current planning, transportation planning, environmental flood protection planning, historic preservation, zoning administration, community planning and development, which includes CDBG and home programs, planning initiatives as the 2020 census, poverty study, and Task Force and Housing Strategic Plan. Community Planning and Development Program mission to provide approved city activities through the provision of funds per the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Services provided are community development block grants, which are federal grant programs designed to provide eligible cities called entitlement communities with annual direct grants that can be used to revitalize neighborhoods, expand affordable housing and economic opportunities, and/or improve community facilities and services, principally to benefit low and moderate income residents. Home Investment Partnership Programs is a federal grant program designed to provide funds to local governments for new construction, rehabilitation, acquisition of standard housing assistance to home buyers, and tenants-based rental assistance. There is an attachment regarding the CDBG budget regarding undefined projects through May 2022. I don't have any other information for the year 2022 to 2023. There's an announcement for a public hearing for CDBG and home funds scheduled for Wednesday. Where is the proposed projects that is planned to receive these funds? I want to see the income and expense statement for these funds. The other information I need is why are there two departments spending CDBG and home funds? There's no need to have PRHA to spend money without our knowledge or consent, like they did with the purchase of 5315 High Street West for $650,000 without the residents and Woodbine Farms' knowledge or consent.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, then, do we have a motion and a second? We do have a motion and a second. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes? Yes. Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-367. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting state homeland security program funding in the amount of $41,150 from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, then Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes? Yes. Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-368. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we're considering on this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance modifying, approving, and affirming categories of expenditures for American Rescue Plan Act funding.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Thank you, ma'am. We do have one registered speaker, and that speaker is Ms. Donna Sy.
I didn't get it.
Ma'am, if you would come forward, you will have.
Second.
Thank you.
Excuse me?
We didn't have a second. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Say what?
Thank you. Ma'am, we're all good. You're good. We needed a second, and we received one.
Oh.
Thank you very much. You have the floor, ma'am.
All right, Donna Sy, Woodbine Farms neighborhood. As y'all know, I like to know all about money. I wanted to be CPA, but I learned that there was too many rules and regulations to remember, and I didn't have a notebook. So I decided not to go that route. But I want to know everything because I pay a lot of taxes here, and I don't get anything for it, okay? So 22-368 is to modify categories of expenditures for the American Rescue Plan Act funding. And so before I did a research to collect all the things so I know. So y'all are now going to modify the categories of expenditures for the American Rescue Act funding. It's being done without a work session to show what the modification categories will be. See the organizational chart of the city? Are you aware of the Bill of Rights? We, the people, have chosen people to help us to self-govern, to help with the category selections. I have included a handout of the funding that I have put together from presentations and the information from the budget book. And I would like to get this information amended to see how the ARPA funding has been or will be used. See all this stuff? I like it orderly. That's why y'all are so smart up there. You're supposed to be doing all this.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Woodard.
Appreciate you. This for the city manager. The modifications are the conversations we had early in the work session with us applying the money to the infrastructure and the software upgrades for our 911 facility.
Yes, we actually had a work session on the first round of ARPA funding that the categories were designated in November, and then earlier in today's work session, we discussed the modification for the 911 system, yes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional questions from our members? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-369. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir, an ordinance authorizing the transfer of $300,000 from the non-departmental salaries category of the FY 2023 general fund budget to the contractual audit line item in the finance department category of the FY 2023 general fund budget for the purpose of conducting a forensic audit of ARPA expenditures and the general fund budget and an assessment of public utilities billing.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
And we do have registered speakers for this item, and the first speaker is Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, if you would come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
Donna Sy, Woodbine Farms neighborhood. 22-369 is an ordinance to transfer $300,000 from the non-department salaries category for the year 2022 to 2023 general fund budget to pay for a forensic audit of the ARPA and general fund money spent and to assess the public utilities billing practices. In the budget book on page 6-4 for the general wage increase for the year 2022-23 is $3,500,000. What employees would be getting this wage increase now that this $300,000 will be transferred out of this non-department to pay for the forensic audit? What employees will not get the wage increases? Remember when there was a request for $312,000 to do a disparity study? That disparity study request did not come from the people who are being passed over. It came from one elected representative. That money could have gone towards the forensic audit. This would have prevented employees from getting a 3% raise. As anyone can see, the taxpayers' money is being used without the people's knowledge or consent. There was a financial commission in prior years. Why isn't that commission reinstated so the people can have control over how our money is being spent? Another thing, how come there hasn't been a work session to show where the issues are? Why has it taken so long to do an audit? There's a position for an auditor on City Council that has been unfilled for many years. If we had an auditor all along, we wouldn't be in this position now.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker, Mr. Mark Godaldig-Yatrowski. Mr. Yatrowski, sir. State your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Mayor, council, and other neighbors. I have some concerns about this particular item. I agree with the previous speaker that there hasn't been sufficient discussion on this. I particularly wonder what the adjective forensic applied to the audit type. I wonder how much that's increasing the cost of the audit. I also wonder about the timing of this, because earlier in the evening, we received a report on the ACFR, is it now? What used to be called the CAFR, which was in its final stages of completion. So how much new ground is going to be covered here that wasn't encompassed in the ACFR? The background statement says that concerns have been expressed regarding the tracking of expenditures of the city's American Rescue Plan funds received in 2021 and the general fund, as well as the city's procurement and public utility processes and procedures. As the previous speaker noted, I haven't seen or heard a great deal about what these concerns are and if there wouldn't be another way to address them that doesn't involve laying out $300,000 to do so. I know that we have been down the audit road before. Unlike the previous speaker, I don't feel the auditor road, rather. Unlike the previous speaker, I'm not as sanguine about what benefits the city would derive. City council, a previous city council, hired an auditor, somebody who had no public auditing experience, gave him no real direction, and then a few years later fired him for not accomplishing anything. Well, the council gave him a bare bones job description and no real guidance in the form of a full-bodied job description. So I think if we were to hire somebody at this point in time, we'd be back in the same position. I'm not certain, I'm not comfortable that those of you sitting up there who are going to decide on this item actually know the difference between a forensic audit and the general kind of audit that we undergo. Maybe it's something you picked up from watching CSI, but I'd really feel more comfortable if there had been a discussion of this in a work session and you all had discussed what that really means to us. So not thinking that $300,000 is an insubstantial amount of money, I would prefer to see you defer this item and fill in the background, fill in the blanks, and really justify this. Some goals and objectives I would greatly appreciate as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, the speaker, Mr. Godolski-Utrowski, keeps putting out misinformation. And the comments that you made about the previous auditor, I would caution you, because I was on council when all of that transpired. And I just want to make sure that the disparaging comments that were made, that the citizens recognize that that was out of order, which some of what you said has already been determined by the court awarding him a $300,000 settlement. Also, when he was originally hired, the reason why he did not have a clear directive is because there was no directive. The directive was for him to find information out on the school board. And when he didn't follow the game plan, they got rid of him. And so I just want to make it clear, because you keep coming up here giving information as if you are telling the truth, and you're giving misinformation. And when it involves talking about individuals who I know did quality work, I'm not going to sit back and let you just do that.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other councilmen that have any questions on this discussion? Councilman Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Our citizens have a propensity to continuously to try to insult, demean, and most of the time, they mean well, but they don't know what they're talking about. Now, what Mr. Codaltry did was, in journalism, called a slanted version. That's the version where he would lead you with those points that may or may not be true to get you to think the way he's thinking. So please be careful with people like this, because they mean the city not a lot of good when they're doing things like this. And do they ever come up and talk about good things? And as much research as he does, don't you think he would have researched the difference between the two audits and known the difference? And as far as this being a hidden situation, we've been talking about this audit for the last 2 sessions that we've met. Please read and think. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else with any other comments or questions regarding this matter?
Can we just have the city manager to explain to the citizens and what this is going to entail?
Yes, ma'am. I think that it's appropriate. Madam City Manager, could you please provide us some outline of what this will entail?
I'll actually ask our interim CFO, Ms. Barisha, to come up and explain it. Thank you. I do know.
What happened?
Good evening.
Could you state your name, please, ma'am?
My name is Flora Berisha. I'm interim CFO
Okay,
for City of Portsmouth.
thank you.
So I would
Welcome.
just would like to clarify that what the previous auditors explained and what we're trying to achieve with this ordinance. So the previous auditors did the audit financial statements for City of Portsmouth, and what they do is that they don't go through all transaction and everything. When they do their audit, they take the risk assessment, risk approach, and they do just on reasonable basis, if everything is fine. They don't have, the means and the time to kind of go through every transaction. Now, we're asking for this $300,000 for this forensic audit because we would like to go in more depth of each transaction and each procedure. And what we're trying to cover with this $300,000 is that we'd like to go through ARPA gift cards distribution process, and also would like to go through findings on the procurement process for $3.2 million purchase of ARPA gift cards. Also, on top of this, would like to, and our expectation are from this audit that gift cards purchases adhere to city's procurement policy, and no distributed gift cards are unaccounted for. And our mission is in finance department's mission is accountability for each public funds spent. And the other one we would like to do is that with this forensic audit, ensure that no personal funds, no personal vehicles are serviced with public funds. So we'd like to go through garage and general services So go more into depth of this spending, their spending funds. So would like to review all orders on city vehicle services for the time frame October 2021, September 2022. And one of the things I would like to go through some community, some programs, different programs, and would like to make sure that payments that were done to these programs adhere to city's procurement policies and procedure, and they have the proper justification. So this is, okay, it should be, we're trying to build a better scope for auditors because we still, it takes more than this. We have to discuss, do the bid and stuff like that. So, but the main focus are these fields, which is going to be parking, general services, and ARPA funds, and public utility.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Mayor, she just answered my question from public
Okay.
utilities. Now, that's going to be on the billing portion,
Yes.
or all aspects of the cash handling and,
We believe so.
okay, thanks.
Mr. Battle, sir, you have the floor.
You see, a lot of folks in our city has called these gentlemen thieves and crooks and things like that. And they write no checks. And they've cashed no checks from the city of Portsmouth. But you all are looking for a crook. You gotta have a crook so you make them the crook. So see, this is gonna find, if there is, your crooks. I know you wanted to find your crooks, don't you? Right? You call these people thieves and bandits and they write no checks. You let allegations from newspapers and radios give you sour opinions of them. So now, this is going to bring forth the truth. And you don't have to follow your leaders with foolishness. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Councilman Woodard, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, I was actually going to say this request isn't new. Councilman Battle, I also echo this as well, to do a forensic audit during the previous administration. And I think it's something that's appropriate now that we do have new personnel in place for us to do a forensic audit to make sure that we can follow things that were implemented in the past so they can be successful as they continue to deploy new programs, put people in place, and also, like you say, find any imperfections that was done in the past. So thank you for giving a detailed explanation of what exactly the forensic audit will entail. And I do appreciate all your hard work, City Manager Chapman. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
By all means.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
No.
Oh.
Item 22-370. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considered pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting assertive community treatment program funding in the amount of $750,000 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Behavioral Health Care Service Fund to provide comprehensive mental health and substance use services.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we will need a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional questions that we have on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-371. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting state opioid response grant funding in the amount of $294,852 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Behavioral Health Care Service Fund for substance use services and treatment.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-372. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we're considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting STEP VA funding in the amount of $227,308 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Behavioral Health Care Service Fund for mental health services.
Council members, we're in need of a motion and a second.
Move for
Adoption.
approval.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Battle? Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-373. And Madam Clerk, please read the resolution we are considering pertaining to this item.
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the clerk of the Portsmouth Circuit Court for the performance of audio-visual upgrades to the courtrooms in the judicial complex.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Move for adoption.
Did I call for a motion and a second? Is there a motion and a
Move
second?
to adopt.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now come to new business. Item 22-374. And Vice Mayor Barnes, Dr. Whitaker, are there any appointments to bring forward for consideration, sirs?
Yes, first I'll do the reappointments and then I'll do the appointments for you guys' approval. For reappointment, we have the Library Board, Ashley McBride and Jelly Randell. The Law Library Board, Diane Griffin and LaToya Height. And Portsmouth Ports and Industrial Commission, Renika Jackson and Bracy Parr. Appointments, we have to the Board of Zoning Appeals, Jasmine Fields and C.B. Walters. Clean Community Commission, Michael Johnson and Ursula Murphy. Community Criminal Justice Board, Interim Chief Stephen Jenkins and Arvina Gregg. Southampton Roads Disability Service Board, Logan Ellington Harrison. Economic Development Authority, LaToya Hill. Historical Preservation Commission, May Brickenwood Hayward and Donna Sy. Law Library Board, Attorney Elliot Moody and Commonwealth Attorney Stephanie Morales. Library Board, Stephanie Bristow. Museum and Fine Arts Commission, Ronald Peterman, Jennifer Corso, Lawrence Oles, Melanie Foster. Planning Commission, Marion Jiggins. Portsmouth Ports and Industrial Commission, Benjamin Foster, and Wetlands Board, Cecilia Board.
Thank you, sirs. We're in need of a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Once again, we've moved to item 22-374,
22-375. Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution requesting the General Assembly of Virginia to amend the Charter of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia by amending Section 12.09 regarding recall of elective officers.
Thank you, ma'am. We are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Council members, is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
No.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
No. We have now come to item 22-376. Ms. Chapman, are there any pending items? Or did we have, did I miss something?
No. You didn't ask if there were any additional.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry, you're right. Council members, do any of you have any additional items to submit?
Mr. Woodard has his hand.
Councilman Woodard. You have the floor, sir.
I almost got a little armed today. So
Sometimes it's hard.
I know I almost got a little armed today, but I just want to take the time out to shout out my family that's in attendance today. My aunt's here, my cousin's here, my lady, my sister, my father's here as well. I also want to, because I forgot an appointee on the last time, City Assessor Patrick Dorsey. Could you please stand up, sir? It's been a pleasure serving with you. You've been a class act the whole time, and best off to your endeavors. Also from the Parking Authority, Ms. Pamela Wilkins, I ask you to stand up as well. It's been a pleasure serving with you. I admire all your input and your hard fight. You've been doing this for a long time. I'm kind of a rookie to this, but believe me, I work hard to be the council person that this city needs. And like I say, in our conversations, I think we cover a lot. But once again, I do appreciate serving with you. Once again, the citizens, you guys have been remarkable. If you guys know me, I like to be about throughout the city and really figure out what's going on ahead of council meetings. And, I really enjoy doing the work for the people. I don't think you should ever take these positions if you do not enjoy to be here on a daily basis. And Councilwoman Burke can tell you, we always talk about my weight because she know that I won't eat at times because, I really care about the citizens and I care about putting in that work ethic. If you don't know, I'll come to your community. If you give me a call, I'll come knock on your door. If you give me a call, I wasn't a person who was here for the title. I was here strictly and only for the work. Our interim chief, Jenkins, he'll tell you from time to time, me and him will see each other walking different neighborhoods as he patrol on foot. And if I can, I'm sorry to endorse him, but I think he will be an excellent chief because he really got our police officers working, and our city and our streets are becoming safer each and every day. It was at a time when we couldn't even pump gas, without having the fear of getting hit with a stray bullet or being in some type of shootout that you could fall victim to. So, I do appreciate all the hard work that he's doing. I appreciate our Director of Behavioral Health, Mr. Woodard, back there, putting in a different approach to solving some of the problems that are much needed here in Portsmouth. Not just locking folks up or whatnot, really seeing how can we get down to the root issue of what's going on with some of our citizens in our community here in Portsmouth. So I appreciate the work that he's done on a daily basis. Our city attorney, LaVonda Grant-Williams, very decorated young lady. She has an impressive resume, and we should be thankful to have her here and to work along a grateful staff with Mr. Jeff Miller and company. Also, our city manager, I know it's been a hard transition between different administrations, but what I will tell you is that her resume speaks for itself, okay? I know it's been a lot of rhetoric out there to try to deter you from accepting her, but what I will say is that her resume speaks for itself. Okay, she's one page away from a PhD. She don't wear it on her sleeve or whatnot, but I'm here to speak up for her and let you guys know that we all need to come together and understand that, hey, it's work to do here in Portsmouth. I know a lot of you think that if you've done things because of this election don't make or break me, and it don't make or break, I hope, Mr. Battle as well. You know, because he's been doing things here for a long time. Since I've been in high school, I've been watching Mr. Battle run for city councilman. And this young man, he deserved to be here. But what I will say is we got to come together, people. You know, I know it's been recalls and whatnot, and believe me, I watched that process. And I think it was somehow weaponized racism as well. Now, if you have a problem with someone, okay, if you have an issue, stand up for it. I understand. But I don't know if this was genuine, if this was a genuine process that we were doing or having on full display here in Portsmouth. And I'll tell you this, it was really embarrassing because we was trying to run a full-blown election and you had to walk past this crap that was being on full display here in our city. You know, it was very embarrassing. In our community, we call it ghetto. It was ghetto. Tables all throughout the city. That's not the way we operate, people. That's not the way we do it. If you had an issue, you get it done off campus somewhere in different quarters, do what you got to do. I don't think nobody is saying don't do it. But it's a way that we do things here, people. Okay? And if you're not worried about what people think of you, then you got a problem. Because one thing about myself, I displayed professionalism the whole time I've been here. From head to toe, how I dress, to sometimes how I speak, but I never try to create any enemies. Never. Because that's not what this is all about when you serve the folks. I had council persons who wouldn't speak to certain people on days when you're mad. That's not what this is all about, okay? You have to be here for the people. And I'll tell you this, and this is no slack to anyone, but a couple of days removed from that election, people started to wonder, were they gaslighted? You know? Were people steered in the wrong direction? I don't know. All I can do is tell you that I put in 110% work ethic every day, and I talk to everyone, and I will answer any question that's need be. Have no problem with it, because that's what we supposed to do. We supposed to keep that line of communication open. But I'll tell you this, Portsmouth, we continue, and we still have work to do. Bringing quality projects in our city, bringing jobs in our city. Not car washes, not storages. We are better than that, people. Not turning Portsmouth into a bedroom community and you got to go outside the city and shop and spend your money. That's not what it's all about. We want to make sure that we can do things in walking distance here in Portsmouth. We want to make sure that we can save on a little gas and go down the street and do some things right here in this city. If you don't believe in Portsmouth, get out the way. If you don't believe in it, get out the way. If you're running for office just because you're running and you're trying to split votes and stuff, get out the way. Let's get some people here that really care about this city, that's going to put some skin in the game, okay? One thing about it, I put skin all in this game. I went through harassment, name calling, lies, everything, and still I stand. Every event, I'm right there, showing you, guess what? I ain't going nowhere. And I'm going to continue to tell you this. I ain't going nowhere. Councilman Chris Woodard. Love you guys.
Councilman Battles, sir, you have the floor.
Can I stand?
Sir,
May I stand?
sir, you can do whatever you would like.
You're so kind. If you would want to, well, let me say this first. Black folk are called black folk, African Americans, and they call Negroes. All of it means black. Negroes mean black. So let me say, to the Negroes of this city, if you would like to recall someone, recall us all if we don't put the programs in place to help develop the youth. You come down, all of us have had those tragedies, and you come down for the most uninspiring things. Take care of your children. Nobody on the planet or off the planet is going to think highly of anyone or any group of people that don't take care of its children. You want to fight for your children. Stop letting chicanery and gaslighting get you in those Negroes who are paid on the side to lead you in foolish directions, and those white folk who make all the money and put the money in place to turn you into sucker johns. It's that you keep going through the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Letting them folk in place to get stipends from them billionaires lead you down the path for foolishness. I've been blessed, okay? And I've been blessed because I have unique qualities. I have the ability to disagree with you and not dislike you and not hate you, and to continue to work to help all of you, regardless to your colors. That's Churchland High School. Ask Woodrow Wilson. Ask them all. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of you are ill and don't know it. That's right. Because you hate for the most asinine and foolish of things. Now, I said a mouthful. I disagree with some things, but I've never hated anybody on this planet. I love you all. I control my destiny. Never you. I control the way that I live. Never you. And if you just have to hate somebody, it's okay if you hate me. Because I'm a big dude, I can handle it. But that's foolishness. You need to get rid of that foolishness. Hating and disliking for foolishness. And letting people play you, take the money. You're scrambling for money. You're scrambling to get your children services. What's wrong with you? Going through it over and over and over again. And letting people tell you things and lead you. But hope you catch on. But if things don't improve, I'll be back. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
One time in this city, it used to be a lot of saying that we don't do anything for certain communities, low-income communities, those who really need it most. Now, when I'm on Facebook or some of the people that comes into these meetings, they say we doing too much. Why do everything have to be in those communities? And I'm excited and happy to have served with Councilman Chris Wood and Paul Battle for the first time in this city, we thought about those communities and we put things in place for those communities. As somebody who has lost a 12-year-old cousin to gun violence who was shot and killed, and also who was part of an organization where we had kids that were shot and killed, I feel that what they've done, some of the policies they put in place as far as helping with fully funding our education, putting money into our programs, our recreational programs to make sure that our kids are invested in, putting money into communities, putting money into the citizens' hands, just doing things for the citizens and those who have never been beneficiary of politics before. So I'm thankful to have served with you guys. I know I've told you this personally, but I feel like it's something that needs to be said out loud. You guys have done such a great service to the citizens of Portsmouth, and I'm proud to have been able to serve with you guys, and I know that you guys will continue to do the work because you've done it before you was on council, and you will continue to do it because I know you guys will, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other items that need to be submitted by council members? A couple of things I would like to share. This past weekend in the city of Portsmouth, we had the Old Town holiday celebration. And I want to take a moment because I know we've just gotten out of COVID in the last 2 years. We haven't really been able to celebrate as a community the holiday season. And if you were downtown this past weekend, you got to see, first of all, Portsmouth Public School children caroling, singing, bringing in the holiday spirit, elementary, middle, and high school. But in addition to that, you got to see our city staff, Parks and Recreation, our fire department, our city manager, everybody out and about, including and working in collaboration with the business community, frolicking up and down the streets, celebrating, the best, the most wonderful time of the year. And for me, I think that's what community embodies. That's what community is. And at this special time of the year, I want to thank everyone, our city leadership, our city management, our city workers and city staff, our citizens, our business owners. We've been through a lot, folks, these last couple of years. And we've got a lot of work to do, as my colleagues often remind us. And so I just want to thank you, the citizens of Portsmouth, for hanging in there and being patient with all the things that we try to do as a body to improve the quality of life for all of our citizens. And I wish you all certainly the most happiest and safest of holidays. Mr. Battles, sir, you have the floor. Merry Christmas, sir. We have now moved to the next item, which is 22-376. And Ms. Chapman, ma'am, do you have any pending items?
I just want the citizens to know that our scheduled go-live date for our citywide camera system has been postponed until the beginning of February. Oh, also, earlier in the work session, we discussed our 911 system, and we wanted all the citizens to be aware of the fact that they are able to text 911 and still get a similar response for if you call 911. The marketing team will be putting out that information, but it's basically text 911 and you'll get a response from our dispatchers as well to respond to any type of emergencies. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
I did have a question for the city manager. Will the city be open on January the 2nd?
The first day is the 3rd.
Right, okay.
January 3rd.
Okay, all right, all right.
Thank you, ma'am. We have now come to the item on our agenda, non-agenda speakers. And Madam Clerk,
Would you please read the speaker statement? Item 22-377.
City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than to any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Our first speaker for the evening, Cheryl Bryant. Ms. Bryant, ma'am, if you would come forward, state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
How y'all doing this evening?
Good, ma'am.
Please excuse the shades. This light is too much for my eyes.
Understood, ma'am.
My name is Cheryl Bryan. I reside here in Portsmouth. Now, the last time that I was here, I spoke and touched bases on several things as far as the community, health care, and one of them was a trade school. I don't know if I spoke loud enough, I was heard, I didn't get any feedback or any questions or concerns. So I guess I just keep coming until someone asks some questions. The first thing I would like to bring up is the trade school. Portsmouth needs a trade school. It will help people with a career path, decrease unemployment rates, provide better lives for individuals financially and emotionally, lower cost of education, smaller classes, which would be great with individuals that has disabilities that want to excel still, and prepare them for careers that's in demand right now. Next topic I would like to bring up is a city ordinance I'm requesting for C code. The C code stands for the Care Code 22-831. And it stands, first responders such as paramedics or medical certified individuals must evaluate the ill or the injured themselves to determine level of care. It is prohibited that paramedics or medical trade certified individuals take word of mouth from a second or third party without proper evaluation. Underlining another individual's condition without proper care or evaluation is a violation against the C Code 22-831. As continued, police officers or law enforcement are to serve and protect and enforce laws throughout the community. They are not trained, certified, nor skilled to provide appropriate information related to potential illness or injuries. The purpose of the C codes. It will prevent a worsened health condition, illness, premature conditions, possibly death, prevent misdiagnosis, assuming someone's conditions based off appearance is not a fact finding. Improve knowledge to both parties, the patient and the responder, how health symptoms differ from person to person. Equal rights, opportunity to have fair care without being discriminated or biased against. To protect both parties, the patient and the responder, that service were offered and the mission was held by the responders or medical certified health personnel. Now you can note that this request is to improve first responders' mission to the community. This is also a universal request that can also be used in the healthcare system.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. William Britt. You please state your name and address, sir. You will have 5 minutes.
William Britt, Sterling Point, Portsmouth, Virginia. Once again, I got some major concerns here.
We got the casino opening up on January 12th, am I right? We still have a shortage of over 72 police officers. We also have a problem, and I talked to Mrs. Burke about this the other day, pertaining to where Cavalier Boulevard is, where it used to be Fairwood Homes. They're using that as a dump site. It looks disgusting. Now we're getting ready to open up this thing. We got people coming into the city. They ride down Cavalier Boulevard. You got furniture, couches, tires. Just people are using it as a dump site. And this is in a predominantly black area, and they don't deserve that. Something needs to be done. We need to get the police department to go over there and start handing out citations for littering instead of hanging over there and giving out tickets over there at Churchland Bridge. I have a concern about that. Another thing is, I talked to your city liaison, and she was telling me, I asked her for the percentage of equipment that is non-functional in the city of Portsmouth to run this city. It's 22% of the equipment in this city is non-functional, 22%. All right, and you need this equipment to run the city. We got a problem there. And once again, I'm not condemning the police department because I'm an advocate for the police department and stuff. Response time. My shop is on Rodman Avenue, and Mrs. Burke, her mother experienced the same thing about theft of catalytic converters. I lost over $12,000 worth. I don't report to my insurance company because they'll go up on my rates, so it'll come out of my pocket. I had a gentleman, PL's Towing, call me up one night, 3.5 months ago, to tell me that they're climbing over the fence to steal catalytic converters again. Now, he called, actually it was 1 o'clock when he called me. He called the police department, no response. So he called me. I went down, blocked off Choate Street because they were still there. I would not let these people proceed past me. Now, they came toward me with their vehicle. I had a gun. I put my gun up in the air. All right. The police finally showed up at 3:30 in the morning. When it came down there, I went over and put the gun in my pocket. Now, I got a clean police record. Never been in trouble. It's a situation I don't have a concealed weapons permit. Who do you think went to jail? I did. All right. And it cost me $5,000 to get my company attorney to represent me to clear my name. All right. So was I in the wrong for putting it in my pocket without concealed weapons permit? Yes, I was. All right. Do I blame it on the police department? No, I don't. They did their job. But 3.5 hours or 3 hours to come down there to a response, what will happen if something happens at this casino? We do not have the appropriate police department to handle these problems. It is a major problem. And once again, I talked to some department heads and I talked to some police department representatives that I know. And I do commend Ms. Chapman about the job she's doing. They all say you have an open door policy. It's not like the previous city manager we had, which didn't want to talk to anybody. So you do have an excellent policy, and I commend you there. Mr. Speaker, I think you're doing a hell of a job, man. I mean, you're doing a heck of a job. You really are. Now, another problem I have is pertaining to schools. I talked to Councilman Moody about this. I think I talked to Ms. Burke about this the other day. My grandson, who happens to be African American, he is, in the last 2 weeks, well, 2 months ago, 2 weeks into it, he started acting out. All right, he left his class and went into the men's kids' bathroom, and he was smoking something with some other kids. All right, now, evidently, he thought he was smoking a vape. And he went over there, and when he smoked this thing, the problem is that he went over there and he reacted in a bad reaction. Now he's facing 2 felonies and a misdemeanor charge. This is a young man with absolutely no record, and he's 15 and a half years old. So that has me concerned. When I talked to the school principal and I talked to several other people, it was like it was blown off. Like we don't have this problem. I talked to the sheriff's department, who now is operating the school security, and it's a situation where they said this has been a problem. The police department said this is a problem within the schools with synthetic narcotics, and something needs to be addressed, and we need to do something to save the kids. You know, I do not want to see any of these other kids go through what my grandson is going through. It's a travesty. Other things, I mean, we got some major problems in this, and this thing about, you know, politicians, you're all politicians, state, federal, and local. The reason why people lose the election is because of policies that they back. And that's totally not good, and that's why they lose elections. And one last thing is, Mr. Woodard, you got all my respect. I respect you, and I had the pleasure of parking next to your dad, and I was talking to your dad, and you should be proud to have a father that you have. He's a very intelligent man, and we had a very good conversation. Another last thing is, I had one of the council members attack me because a comment I was making to your dad about some of the stuff that was going on in the city. And this specific councilman who seemed to take off.
Sir, your time is up, sir. Your time is up, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Mr. Walter Jones. Mr. Walter Jones. Our next speaker, Ms. Donna Sy.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in Woodbine Farms neighborhood. The failure of the city to monitor and care for the cemeteries in Portsmouth, especially Lincoln Memorial Cemetery. Let's review what happens in the city to cause the failure to do its duty for the people in many ways, not just one. At the top of the municipal organization of the city, it says citizens. That's we the people. Next, you see the line underneath the citizens is the judicial system and the city council members. Mind you, since I am one of many, I have the right and duty to self-govern. I assign my representative to each district since they didn't take care of this responsibility to work together to do this themselves. Hopefully, the newly elected will take on that representative role themselves by representing districts. Next, look at the city manager's position. She has 3 deputy city manager positions responsible to her. She also has a list of department heads responsible to her. These department heads are the Community and Economic Development Department, the two departments of Public Safety, the Fire and Police, the General Government Department of Human Resource Management. There are 4 columns under the city manager to oversee that the needs of the people will be met. Over the city manager are 7 elected representatives of the people, by the people, and for the people to make sure all work gets done to take care of the needs of the people. One of the number of things the elected representatives of the people haven't done is to attach the boards, commissions, authorities, or committees to each of the departments. This is a major problem. Here is an example of no communication. The failure of the city to monitor and care for the cemeteries in Portsmouth, especially Lincoln Memorial Cemetery. Let's review 4 commissions to understand where the lack of communication starts and who needs to be held accountable. The Historic Preservation Commission has a liaison to preserve and protect historic places and areas in the city through the control of demolition and regulation of architectural design and uses of structures in such areas. The History Commission does not have a liaison to accept grants, gifts, and appropriations from whatever source and expends funds to increase knowledge concerning the city's history. The Museum and Fine Arts is a division of the Parks and Recreation Department. The Museum and Fine Arts Commission has no liaison to recognize the intrinsic value of the arts for an enhanced quality of life, a positive economic impact, and an improved perception of the Portsmouth community, and to serve in an advisory capacity to City Council to educate, preserve, and promote our cultural arts and historical heritage. Review the cost to taxpayers for the lack of the representatives doing his or her duty to preserve and promote our cultural arts and historical heritage. Our money could have been used to take care of Lincoln Memorial Cemetery. The Parks and Recreation Commission has 2 liaisons who are supposed to be committed to developing and maintaining recreational services of games, sports, hobbies, which promote responsibility, growth, achievement, and respect by providing those experiences to ensure an attractive, safe, and wholesome recreation community. This failure is evidenced by ball fields being neglected and cultural arts being destroyed, and the failure to pay for the services done to clean up the Lincoln Memorial Cemetery. This historic cemetery has our people who helped build our city buried there, and the historical remembrance, the Union Monument. Pay the man for his work to preserve our cultural history. Take the money out of the Parks and Rec's budget and or the Planning Department budget under its primary responsibility of historic preservation.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Mr. Mark Godalda-Gutrovsky, sir.
Mayor, council, and other neighbors, I'm going to depart from my announced remarks. I want to start with a piece of news that's sad in many ways. On the 5th of December, Ms. Linda Ridenour left the city of Portsmouth in the only way I could ever conceive of her leaving. She left this planet. She was somebody who loved this city deeply. She worked for the good of her neighbors. She especially loved the children of the city. And her absence will be deeply felt. I have tried to impress on a couple of recent mayors the power of being the last to speak in any sort of assemblage of people. Tonight you've seen how that works. It really works well when you can have the last word and nobody can contradict or refute what you say. But I take comfort in the knowledge that in a republic, a democratic republic, the people will have the last word. And in closing, let me wish you all happy holidays, whichever ones you celebrate at this time of year. Peace for you and your families.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Mr. Cedric Cradle. Sorry, ma'am.
Cedric Cradle, do a residence at 725 Bow Street. Good evening, Mayor, City Council persons, woman, City Manager, and City Attorney, and the City of Portsmouth. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate the newly elected council persons and to the re-elected councilman, Mr. Moody. I would like to personally thank Councilman Woodard on the behalf of the Mothers of Unseen Tears, along with the re-elected Councilman Moody. Mr. Woodard, I pray that you take this time to recharge your battery and get back into the fight of helping your community, even though things didn't turn out the way that you may have wanted it to. You are a part of this community, and I hope that you keep your presence so that Ms. Flossie and Lil Joe can continue to smile down on you and be proud of you. I know your family, and I know they're proud of you. So continue to do the work that the people chose you to do. Now back to the business at hand. Crime is not down, as some people may want you to think. Families are still living in fear in many neighborhoods in the Portsmouth community. There are 2 young people right now under the age of 21 fighting for their lives in Norfolk City General because of gun violence. And if you don't believe me, check your census or check the data sheet, crime data sheet. Right now they're fighting for their lives. But anyway, 2 questions I have. Who updates the yearly to-date crime stats? I'm here to tell you your crime stats are wrong. Completely wrong. So whoever's updating our crime stats in the city of Portsmouth, they're doing our city a disservice. And because of most of this community is African American, and we've been affected by most of the crime in the community, that's just a total disservice. But prove me wrong if I'm lying. Let's talk about the CCTVs that we said we would be ready to implement or put in place around November. See, I didn't come in here in the previous because I wanted to see how y'all was gonna play this out. But now we continue on to set it for February when people are literally getting shot and killed in these communities. But again, these are African American young people being shot and killed. So it should affect you in some kind of way. Second thing, what about the resources for those two families that don't have no resources, for those people that are struggling mentally to get through the gun violence that they've been a part of their own, not of their own doing, that happened at a city, a public place, over there on Portsmouth Boulevard, one of your centers. Nobody's contacted that family. How do I know? Because I've talked to the mother. But I'm just saying. But again, I'm not crazy. Crime is not down, no matter what you say. But again, I come before you to remind you, I know the holidays are coming, but I got 87 names that I'm going to talk to you about, to say their names, and their families won't get to celebrate Christmas with them, Hanukkah, or whatever you guys going to celebrate. So all the glee and the glitz and glamour that you think that's getting ready, that's going to occur in your household, these families are going to suffer and going to continue to suffer until somebody steps up. When Chesapeake, when that thing happened in Walmart, every preacher, every politician, everybody came out. Gun violence. But I got 87 names that I'm going to say gun violence been here. Killed through gun violence. Charles Mosley, Corey Turd, Timothy Beal, Emmanuel Turd, Jeffrey Bazemore, Jaquan Johnson, Carlton Dodd, Tyshik Wolf, Anthony Skeeter, Raekwon Morgan, Nasia Hicks, Jamel Howard, Darion Granger, Amaje Lee. Mr. Mayor, can I finish?
Finish your list, sir.
Thank you, sir. Damon Mitchell, Lakeisha Smith, DeAndre Morrison, Joshua Sykes, Antoine Wiggins, Talik Farmer, Vernon Norvell, Yashim Caraway, this is his cousin, James Hill, Dante Copeland, Robert Artis, Malcolm Hoskins, Javar Williams, Kamadri Howard, Daquan Epps, Omar Booker, Robert Langston, Nicholas Suggs, Richard Tucker is his cousin, Timothy Shine, Brian Williams, Marquell, Curtis Walton, Kyrie Thomas, William Selfridge, Carlson Baines, Antonio Bunch, Curtis Richardson, Andre Hall, Kiara, Victor Green, David Branch, Lawrence Kofor, Crystal Jacobs, Derek Parker, Demetrius White, Booby Staten, Marlene Everett, 8 years old, Amari Collins, Andre Bethea, Kareem Barchet, Rodney Anderson, Gary Fields, Jamonte Mitchell, Keith Warren, Raekwon Gray, Deion Lofton Jr., Georgia Devontae Lee, Alicia Deion Mears, Ashley Merricks, Robert Parker, Dalen Spence, Terrence A. Johnson, Delvin Crosby, Tyrell Jones, Ariel McLaren, Jazavier Hill, Keandre Jenkins, John Plummer Jr., Bernard Clack, Mays Moon, 2-year-old Anthony Brown, Jaquan White, Christopher Washington, Clifton Privet, Ashante Britt, Lamont Brown, Ronald Thornton, Calvin Colston, Desiree Lightfoot, Chante Clark, and Ronnie Trayron. Again, I don't come up here, I'm not angry, but these are something we need to get passionate about. Mr. Woodard, thank you for your service. And I want you to know this, and I'm going to depart on this. I remember getting ostracized in the eyes of the public. They wanted to destroy me. They wanted me to go away. But I refused to. I accept my fate, and I thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, Marissa Adams.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. You have 5 minutes.
My name is Marissa Adams, and although I'm a proud resident of Portsmouth, I would like to refrain from publicly stating my address, but it's on the record. I've watched these proceedings faithfully online, but it's been a long time since I've been in these chambers, and it's been even longer since I last spoke up here at this podium. When I did speak in the spring, it was after beginning talks with the former city manager, Ms. Jones, about the proper channels to utilize in order to possibly gain access to funding for my youth outreach and mentorship organization in Portsmouth. I remember standing here at the podium and saying if likability, popularity, and profitability were the prerequisites to even be considered for funding, then I'm going to lose every time. 4 days later, as I pulled my family vehicle into the front of my home after dropping off 2 of my program participants who happened to live around the corner from my home, my car was intentionally struck in front of my house with so much force that my living room walls and floor shook as I stood not too far from the front door hanging my keys on the hook. I won't go any farther because that's just the one of many things that occurred that I can actually prove, but there were quite a few random, unfortunate, deliberate actions that took place after I last spoke here in the spring. That said, I fixed my crown, I fixed my truck, and I continued on working within the community of Portsmouth, still without funding, but this time a little bit more selectively and a little bit more quietly. But as luck will have it, it's December, it's the holidays, and I got time today. In my discussion with prior city leadership, I was provided information on community and neighborhood grants programs and the supposed process of the opportunity for funding resources being regularly announced in various public meetings, including city council work sessions, city council meetings, park and recreation commission meetings, and civic league meetings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I became slightly well-versed on the listed qualifications for funding to be based on need, measure impact to cities and citizens, demand and organizations that fill a service gap, as well as availability of funding. I was informed of a community and regional organizations grant review committee, and I was actively looking into ways for my organization to be considered for funding through the Crime Prevention Strategy Program Support Policy Funds. Despite not running an organization specifically geared towards gun violence, my program could have been considered for part of the overall crime prevention strategy because by design, my organization is providing opportunities for youth to make positive use of their time and in my opinion, fell within the guidelines of program activities that increase opportunities for youth to experience programs that promote character building and help instill hopes and dreams in our young people. Unfortunately, the continued scandals that plague this council for the past 4 to 6 months with regard to city leadership and speculation about misuse of city funds have gravely impacted whatever possibility there was for city funding options for my organization. I made this before I read what was going to be on the thing and listened to all this ARPA stuff and all this great stuff, but that's all a mystery to me. I have not benefited from some of these things that were put in place, but I'll save that for another day. The same thing with the community development block grant program funds and things of that nature. These are all things that I looked into. And it seems as though, especially with regard to the community development block grant program funds, the only people that benefit from those are residents attached to or who have ties with the Portsmouth Housing and Redevelopment Authority. I've attempted unsuccessfully to meet with Ms. Chapman to present a pitch for my program as offered months ago. The meetings have been canceled 3 times, not by her directly, I do have to add that, but they have been canceled. Meanwhile, as a business owner in Portsmouth who also happens to be an actual resident, I take issue with the fact that my water, sewage, property tax, and trash bills are all on the rise, but I can't even get trash picked up as scheduled. Why is me being a citizen relevant? Because when you open a city budget, one of the first budget lines under the general fund is taxes. And then there's additional sections for public utilities, all of which I pay in some sort of way as a resident, never mind being a business owner as well. So my question is this: if the push for the city's economic development is as advertised, then why does my small, minority, women-owned, youth outreach and mentorship, community-based organization continue to draw the short end of the stick from city entities with regard to equal access to funding? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Thomas Perry. Thomas Perry, Mr. Perry, are you available, sir? Are you here? Our last speaker then for the evening is Brenda Walton. Ms. Walton, you have the floor. Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Walton, and I'm a resident of Portsmouth, and I reside in Westbury. I would first off like to say that I am terminally ill, and for the last 2 years, I have been living in PRHA with mold. I have mold on my lungs. I have mold in my bloodstream. PRHA, they have not done anything. I've been to them for 2 years. I first started out in Hope Village with mold. From Hope Village, they moved me to Westbury in the mold. My lung doctor gave me the letter to give it to PRHA, asking them to immediately remove me out the property. This was August. I'm still there. They keep coming up with excuses on top of excuses. They had about 20 contractors that denied to do the work because they just wanted them to come and paint over all the mold. I had a quality control person came in, Mr. Zimmerman. He did the quality air control, and in the process of him doing the control, in which I told him out the gate that the roof was leaking, which the roof is leaking. The roof is leaking in the attic. I live, breathe, eat, and sleep with mold every day. I have COPD, I have stomach cancer, and I have a liver disease. I need someone's help to get me out of the house or I'm gonna be dead. They refuse to do anything for me. They keep lying to me, and I can't deal with it no more. I need help, or if not, I'm gonna be dead. Thank you.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Did you have something to say, Dr. Wood?
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead, sir.
No, I was going to ask that city manager will follow up with the PRHA and follow through with this concern. And report back to council next meeting. Or prior to.
So don't leave. We need to get some information from you to get to the city manager so we can investigate the matter a little further, okay? All right. Okay, Ms. Hogg, can you get the information from her, please? Thank you. That was our last speaker, and if there's no more business for the good of the order, I want to say on behalf of the Portsmouth City Council, happy holidays and happy New Year. This meeting is adjourned.